Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and these are my witchy hot takes. This will probably be quite the controversial video. I will probably offend some people with things that I say, but well, that's kind of the reason why you do hot take videos, right? To kind of get into a discussion about things, because we can't agree on everything. That's just normal. Everyone has different opinions on specific things, especially when it comes to definitions and what a witch is, what witchcraft is, what magic is. So, of course, people will disagree on things. So if you disagree with something that I say, then please don't be mad at me. This is just my personal opinion, and I'm completely fine to disagree with you on things. If you want to discuss something, then go to the comment section and write your opinion. Then I'm completely open to discussing these topics. So, let's get into it. So, first of all, this is probably not that controversial, even if you disagree with me. Probably not that much of a deal. I don't think that you have to charge crystals. I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. First of all, why would you charge crystals but not herbs? I haven't seen people put their dried herbs outside under the moonlight to charge before they use them. So why would you do that with crystals and not with herbs? Especially because crystals have been in the earth for hundreds, sometimes hundreds, thousands of years. And they have collected so much energy while being in the earth for so long. Why would you then think that you have to charge them under the moonlight? I don't get it. And then you have herbs that sometimes only grow for a couple of months and they regrow every year from seed. But you have a plant that's maybe like a couple of months old and you don't charge that. I don't know, this just doesn't align with me. What I feel like you don't have to do, but you should do if you work with crystals and you want it to be as effective as possible, then you should probably put your intention into the crystal. Tell the spirit of the crystal what you want it to do, because if you, for example, take a carnelian crystal, it can do a couple of different things. So, of course, you can just take it with you and carry it, and it will have an effect on you because, of course, you have its energy around, its general energy. But if you want it to do one specific thing, then tell it to do one specific thing, as you would do with herbs too, probably. Before you add some herbs into a spell, you probably tell it, I want you to do this one specific thing in this spell, and then you add it to the spell. So this is what I would also do with crystals, but like charging it with energy, I don't think that you have to do it, because they already have energy and they have a spirit, so why would you charge it? Especially charging it under moonlight, for example. If it's a crystal that has nothing to do with the energy of the moon, why would you charge it with moonlight? I don't know. And I mean, I did it for a long time, but over the years I kind of got to a point where I'm like, I don't really think that makes sense. Next up, the second thing will probably be a little bit more controversial, because it's about definitions. And this is where people always disagree, so feel free to disagree. I think if you are not an animist and you don't work with any spirits, like not even plant spirits, if you can work with herbs and smack them into a spell, but if you don't think that these herbs actually have a spirit and you don't work with that spirit, you only use herbs and crystals as ingredients, then I don't think that you are a witch. I don't think that that's witchcraft. I think you're still a magical practitioner. Of course, there are totally like secular magical practitioners, and there are a lot of different definitions and titles for different types of magical practitioners. But I feel like nowadays we just randomly smack the name witch and the term witchcraft onto basically everything that moves and that just merely has to do with any like esoteric magical practices. I mean, some people even call yoga witchcraft, and that has nothing to do with witchcraft. So I feel like witchcraft is a specific thing, especially if you look at historically why people were called witches, for example. They would all work with spirits, and they would all be in some shape or form animists and have some kind of familiar spirits, or work with some kind of spirit or the devil or something like that. So in my opinion, if you don't do that, then you probably should not be called a witch, or I would not call you a witch. Still completely fine if you would call yourself a witch, but I personally wouldn't, simply because I feel like not everyone who does any kind of magical practice is a witch. I feel like we should kind of keep these things a little bit separate. I feel like witchcraft has become this huge umbrella term, and I feel like it shouldn't be that big of an umbrella term. That's my personal definition, and I already know that I will probably get shit for this because people will definitely disagree with me, but as I said, it's okay. And I'm not offended if you still call yourself a witch. That's just what people do nowadays. They just smack the word witch on everything that moves, and that's just how it is, and I'm not a person that fights over terminology, but that's my personal opinion. Alright, the next one. There's a lot of discourse and discussions and fights in the witchcraft community, and not only there, also in the various different pagan communities online that are very much chronically online. They only exist online. In person, nobody would ever fight about these topics. Nobody would care. But there are just these things in the online communities that, sorry, but they're so stupid to discuss about. And nowadays, and I say that as somebody who works in social media, I mean, I'm a content creator, but I have realized that the more time I spend in these online communities, the less fun my practice becomes and the more damaging it is to my own practice, because I just constantly start doubting myself, comparing myself, and getting wrapped up in these discussions and fights, and especially TikTok. That's why I deleted TikTok now, because I just know it's not good for my mental health and it's not good for my practice. I try to stay away from social media sometimes. It's really not healthy for my own practice, and I feel like that's the case for a lot of people, even though a lot of people might not want to admit it. But there's so much stuff in these online communities, so many fights, so many discussions that are so unnecessary that, as I said, just wouldn't arise in a local offline community. If you actually talked to each other, these discussions wouldn't arise. I don't know if that counts as a witchcraft hot take, but I wanted to bring it up because I feel like it's very, very important. Because I definitely feel the more time I spend offline, the more enjoyable and easy my practice gets. Because I don't get wrapped up in all of this drama. Alright, next up. I recently did a poll on Instagram about this, and it seemed to be a little bit controversial, so that's why I put it into my hot takes, and that is that blood is an excellent tool in magic and in general in spells and in ritual as an offering for a lot of different things. And when this video goes up, I either already have a video on blood magic up, or I will upload it in a couple of weeks, because it's already in the making. The script is already done. But I feel like blood is an excellent tool for spell work, for like as an offering, for so many different things. And I realized through this poll that so many people were just disgusted by the thought of using blood in magic. So I feel like there are definitely people who are like, I would never do that, that's disgusting. And on the other side, there are people who love it and do it all the time. I would personally count myself more on the side of the people who do it all the time, because as I said, I love it. And I feel like it just boosts your magical practice, like your spells, so much. It brings so much energy into it, because of course it's life energy. And I don't want to get too much into it because, as I said, there will be a separate video on that. But yeah, I don't really get why people are disgusted by blood. It's just blood. But I mean, okay, I don't have a problem seeing blood, so if someone can't see blood and they pass out as soon as they see something seeping out of their skin, then of course that's a problem. And then I completely understand that you don't want to work with it. But some people are so disgusted by it, like out of no reason, especially also if we're talking about period blood. That's a whole other topic. I also feel like period blood is great for magic, specifically for anything that has to do with very feminine deities, for example. Why not use your period blood? But period blood, especially since there's so much stigma around it as being disgusting and dirty, I think that's pretty sad because people just miss out. Blood is amazing. I have gotten so many great results with blood, and also historically speaking, to consecrate runes, for example, or to activate runes. Blood has been used a lot. We actually have sources that definitely say that. I don't know, I feel like you miss out if you don't use blood in your practice. And not to say that you have to, of course, as always, because people will get offended. You don't have to do it just because I say it, but I personally like it. I have seen great results from it. So yeah, I just don't understand why people find it disgusting. All right, the next one. I don't know if it's that much of a hot topic anymore, luckily, but still I wanted to bring it up. If you call yourself a witch and you don't give a fuck about the environment, or if you don't try to live eco-consciously, what the fuck are you doing? I feel like that is another thing that I just connect so inherently to witchcraft, is the connection to the local spirits and in general nature and your environment. I think it's so inherently tied together. I just can't imagine a witch littering, for example, just throwing their trash on the ground, or yeah, just not giving a shit about it. And I mean, that doesn't have to say that like every witch has to be vegan, has to only thrift their clothes, only has to spend their time outside picking up other people's trash, because of course you can't do everything. But the thing is, for me personally, as I said, witchcraft is so inherently tied to your local spirits, to your environment, to nature, that I just can't imagine a witch not caring about that. How can you effectively work with your local spirits and your environment if you don't give a shit about it? Like, I don't know. And I mean, it is pretty easy. You don't have to do everything at once. You can start with very small things. But I feel like just caring about it, educating yourself about it, that's the important part. Educating yourself about it, because nobody's mad at someone not knowing things, but not educating yourself about things and not trying to learn about it, that is the issue. So yeah, I feel like every witch should try to live eco-consciously, at least to a degree that is possible and accessible for them. And I hope I'm not offending too many people with this. But even if I do, I mean, honestly, nowadays everyone should try to live eco-consciously. Not only witches, but I feel like as people who usually work with nature, with plant spirits, with crystals, with things that are from nature, we should try to give something back, and we should try to not damage our environment too much. All right, number 6, and I have no clue if that is controversial. You don't have to cast spells to be a witch. That is personally something I don't see someone having to do to be a witch, because I feel like affecting change around you or in your own life, that is something that witches usually do. But that doesn't mean you have to do it by casting spells. There are different ways to achieving that. You could, for example, work with spirits and have them do the work. You don't have to cast a spell yourself for these things. I feel like if you don't cast spells, you could still be a witch, depending on what other kinds of things you do to affect the world around you and your own life. And to out myself, I don't cast spells that often. I don't feel like you have to do it that often. I don't think you have to do it at all. I just realized it is probably controversial what I'm saying right now, but yeah, I don't feel like you have to actively cast spells, especially all the time, because if you are pretty content in your life and there's nothing you want to change, then why would you cast a spell? There is no reason to cast spells if there's nothing you want to change in your own life or someone else's life, because of course you could also cast spells for other people or political change or things like that. But if there's nothing you want to change, then don't cast spells. You're still a witch. Totally fine. Alright, the last thing is something that you probably didn't see me say ever, But there is such thing as too much reading. You can read too much. It's basically the same reason as to why there is too much time on social media. Like the reasons why too much time spent on social media and too much time spent reading, it could be bad. And that is, one, you take away time from actual practice. Of course, there is such a thing as an armchair magician or an armchair witch who only reads and doesn't practice. And if you only read and you don't practice, then why do you read in the first place? Of course, you can educate yourself about it, but if you don't put it to actual practice, then why? But also, I feel like if you get too much input from too many different sources, especially as a beginner, that could be a little bit confusing. And it could lead to imposter syndrome, because if you see other people doing various different things and you do something completely different and your intuition tells you to do something completely different, then that could lead to you doubting that what you want to do is valid. If you have a practice that's very different to everything that you read, it could instill a lot of doubt in you, and that could be bad. Still, I think that cross-referencing is very important, so don't just read one book on a topic, but maybe spread it over a longer period of time. Don't get 10 books, read all of them, and then afterwards get into your own practice. Maybe just read 2 or 3 and then try things out and then see what your own intuition tells you, and then afterwards read more books. So yeah, long story short, while reading is amazing, learning and educating yourself is amazing and very, very, very important. Don't just spend all of your time reading. I have definitely made the mistake in the beginning of my practice to mainly just read and not practice, and I feel like I could have made so much more progress in a shorter period of time if I had practiced more and read less, even though reading is amazing. But yeah, these were my witchy hot takes. I hope I didn't offend too many people by some of these things, especially probably if you don't work with spirits or you're not an animist, then you're not a witch. We will see. I am very interested in seeing the comment section and all of the thumbs down. But well, as I said, it's only my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me. But before I end this video, as always, a patron shout out. Thank you so much to Lisa, Brittany, Nick, Sean, Emrys, Celine, Smolketa, Josh, Virginie, Joseph, Eleonora, David, Christine, Rixie Business, Valo, Annalena, Ashley Burns, Glacier, Fabienne, Anna, Laura, Kristen, John, Phoenix, Anton, Jenny, Maggie, Misty, Amy, Colette, Timothy, Coffee, the Honorary Gossip Squirrel, and Bjorn. Thank you so much for supporting me. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up. You can of course check out my other socials and of course my online shop for witchcraft and paganism tools, all ethically and sustainably sourced. You can of course, if you want to, support me on Patreon, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!